By the end of this video, I guarantee you'll be a magnesium expert. No more getting lost in the conflicting information on social media. I'm going to reveal everything, including tips and pitfalls that no one else tells you about. I'm Cyril, founder of DYS, a company specializing in dietary supplements for sports performance. About two types of magnesium. Regarding magnesium, maybe you're lacking magnesium. Magnesium, everywhere you look, people say you need to supplement with magnesium. But why should we take it? Who is it for? What are the most interesting forms of magnesium? Which ones should you take depending on the benefits you're looking for? It's important to know that there's a high chance you are deficient in magnesium, because magnesium deficiency is well documented. 50 to 80% of the population have insufficient magnesium intake. So unless you eat like a gorilla, what? Because in our diet, you have to consume a large quantity of certain foods every day to get an adequate intake. But be aware, it is entirely possible to meet your daily magnesium needs by choosing the right foods such as pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, almonds, spinach, cashews, and even oats. However, these foods are sometimes high in calories. But what are the most common signs of magnesium deficiency? Fatigue, muscle cramps, headaches, irritability, and sleep disturbances. You have all of them at once? Well, good luck. What are the risks of being magnesium deficient for a long period of time? An increased risk of obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, metabolic syndromes, and osteoporosis. Don't forget that magnesium is an essential nutrient and one of the most abundant minerals in our body. The fifth most abundant, I believe. It acts as an electrolyte and as a cofactor in more than 600 enzymatic reactions. It is essential for ATP production, glucose metabolism, nerve conduction, bone health, cardiovascular regulation, and the synthesis of DNA and proteins. In addition to that, it plays a key role in the synthesis and activation of vitamin D. So yes, it is involved in many processes, but that doesn't mean it has miraculous effects. Magnesium supplementation mainly serves to correct deficiencies that can be responsible for various disorders. But what are its main benefits? For bone health, since 60% of your magnesium is found in your bones, a magnesium deficiency is often associated with bone problems, especially since it is essential for the activation of vitamin D, which regulates the absorption of calcium, a fundamental mineral for bone strength. But also for cognitive benefits and proper nerve transmission, magnesium regulates the electrical signals between neurons, influencing several essential neurotransmitters. It binds to the NMDA receptor, limiting their excessive activation by glutamate, an excitatory neurotransmitter that in excess can cause migraines and brain hyperactivity. That's why magnesium intake can sometimes help people who suffer from migraines. Additionally, it acts as a modulator of GABA, a calming neurotransmitter. This explains why magnesium is often recommended to improve sleep and reduce stress. But it also has benefits for muscle function. Magnesium plays an essential role in muscle relaxation after contraction. When a muscle contracts, calcium enters the muscle cells to trigger the activation of muscle fibers. Magnesium, on the other hand, acts as an antagonist to calcium by promoting its expulsion from muscle cells, which allows the muscles to relax. So basically, calcium enables muscle contraction while magnesium promotes relaxation. Without sufficient magnesium intake, this balance is disrupted, which can lead to the well-known muscle cramps, as well as tension and slower recovery. Moreover, magnesium is involved in the production of ATP, the energy used by muscles, which directly affects endurance and physical performance. Another benefit is maintaining a good balance of blood sugar and insulin. Magnesium plays a role in the secretion of insulin by the beta cells of the pancreas, which regulate the production of this hormone. It also participates in the oxidation of carbohydrates, making it easier for the body to use them to produce energy. And so, a magnesium deficiency can lead to ineffective insulin secretion, promoting the accumulation of glucose in the blood and the development of insulin resistance. It also has benefits for heart health. As we've seen, magnesium acts as a regulator of intracellular calcium. Why is this important? Because when there is too much calcium in the muscle cells of blood vessels, it leads to excessive contraction. This is called vasoconstriction, which increases blood pressure. On the other hand, a good balance between magnesium and calcium promotes vascular relaxation, which helps maintain normal blood pressure. That's why people with a high magnesium intake, whether through diet or supplementation, often have better cardiovascular health and a reduced risk of hypertension. And finally, regarding inflammation and energy production, magnesium has an anti-inflammatory effect by regulating pro-inflammatory cytokines, which reduces chronic inflammation involved in many diseases. Research shows that a high level of magnesium is associated with a reduced risk of all-cause mortality, as well as a decrease in cancer-related mortality risks. Who are the people that need a higher magnesium intake? First of all, athletes, they need 10 to 20% more magnesium than the recommended daily intake. Yes, I said they, but I consider myself an athlete too. For elderly people, aging reduces magnesium absorption, which can worsen conditions such as osteoporosis, hypertension, and loss of muscle mass. Pregnant women also need more magnesium, since this mineral plays a crucial role in fetal development, bone growth, and the formation of new tissues. But now, which one should you choose and which should you avoid? It's important to understand that not all types of magnesium contain the same percentage of elemental magnesium. If you see 500 milligrams on the label of a dietary supplement, that doesn't necessarily mean you're getting 500 milligrams of pure magnesium. It's like eating 500 grams of fish, you won't get 500 grams of protein from it. The amount of protein varies depending on the type of fish, just as the amount of elemental magnesium varies depending on the type of magnesium salt used. To give you an idea, here's an example. Magnesium citrate contains about 16% elemental magnesium, but it has high bioavailability. Magnesium oxide has about 60% elemental magnesium, but with low bioavailabilities, and 5% is absorbed. So if you come across an honest brand, it will indicate the amount of elemental magnesium, not just the quantity of magnesium salt. But then, which one is the best? I'm sorry to disappoint you, but there really isn't a best magnesium, because its effectiveness depends on several factors. First, the desired benefits, bioavailability, and digestive tolerance. However, some forms are clearly better suited depending on the goals you're aiming for. Take for example magnesium threonate, which has just been approved in Europe. It's about time. I have a list of 25 other ingredients I'm still waiting to see approved in Europe. Anyway, magnesium threonate is a very good form of magnesium with high bioavailability. It stands out from other types of magnesium because of its ability to cross the blood-brain barrier. This means it can reach brain cells directly and positively influence brain health. So, to date, studies showed the potential for improved memory and cognitive function, and it could also have positive effects on neurodegenerative diseases. I'm not going to list the benefits of every type of magnesium for you, that would take way too long, and I have my yoga session in 20 minutes. See, I told you I was an athlete. So then, how do you choose a good magnesium supplement? Some forms of magnesium are better absorbed by the body. Generally, organic forms like bisglycinate, citrate, malate, and torate. These forms are better absorbed than inorganic forms of magnesium like oxide and hydroxide, which are much less effective, but also in terms of digestive tolerance. Forms like magnesium oxide or marine magnesium can have a rather pronounced laxative effect. To you watching me from the toilet, I see you there, keep going, you're doing a great job. On the other hand, bisglycinate is very well tolerated and does not cause intestinal irritation. But I'm going to tell you about the types of magnesium that, in our opinion, offer the most benefits, especially for athletes. So we're going to focus on 3 forms of magnesium that address psychological, digestive, and muscular aspects. The first one is magnesium bisglycinate. It is characterized by its bond with 2 glycine molecules, an amino acid that acts as a neurotransmitter. This gives it benefits for falling asleep more quickly, as well as better relaxation, and it could even provide support against depression. In addition, it may promote better protein synthesis thanks to glycine, which is involved in several metabolic processes. So be careful, this form of magnesium is becoming more and more popular, but don't be fooled. Make sure to choose the chelated form of magnesium, that is, chelated bisglycinate. Why is that? Some manufacturers mix glycine with other cheaper forms of magnesium like magnesium oxide instead of using chelated magnesium glycinate, which is more expensive. A quality test conducted in 2022 revealed that many products labeled as glycinate or bisglycinate were actually blends rather than pure chelated magnesium glycinate. Basically, you thought you were buying magnesium bisglycinate, but instead you got a cheerful mix 50% bisglycinate and 50% magnesium oxide. And that's me being generous, because sometimes it could be as much as 90% oxide and just a tiny pinch of bisglycinate to make the label look good. Let's get back to our topic. Magnesium citrate is also interesting, and it's one of the most studied forms of magnesium. It's bound to citric acid, which is commonly found in fruits. All right, let me stop you right there. Sure, at high doses, magnesium citrate can cause digestive issues, but at a reasonable dose, it's fantastic. This form of magnesium, thanks to its acidic properties, helps regulate stomach acidity, which can improve digestion and nutrient absorption. Moreover, this type of magnesium has been well studied for its role in reducing oxidative stress and its anti-inflammatory properties. Finally, magnesium malate is bound to malic acid, an organic compound found in many fruits. This form of magnesium is involved in ATP production, promotes muscle recovery, and helps prevent muscle cramps. In this way, it helps maintain an optimal energy level throughout the day. Well, you might start questioning everything, but yes, in our magnesium complex, we have exactly these three forms. And if we chose them, it's precisely because of the benefits I just mentioned. Of course, there are other interesting forms of magnesium, but our clients are athletes seeking performance, which is why we specifically chose these forms. By the way, what are the other interesting forms? For cardiovascular health and blood sugar regulation, there's magnesium taurate. For cognitive benefits, as we've seen, there's magnesium threonate. And if you want to waste your money, there's marine magnesium. How can magnesium contribute to better sleep? Well, magnesium impacts sleep through three main different processes. By promoting the production of melatonin. But how does it do that? By activating the ANAT enzyme, which converts serotonin into melatonin. Without magnesium, this conversion slows down, and so does your sleep. It also helps stabilize brain activity by reducing neuronal excitability. As we saw at the beginning of the video, it acts as an antagonist of NMDA receptors, limiting the excitatory effect of glutamate, and as an agonist of GABA, the inhibitory neurotransmitter that promotes relaxation. However, apigenin has a more targeted and potent effect on GABA receptors than magnesium, making it a better candidate for promoting sleep and reducing anxiety. Magnesium, on the other hand, plays a broader role in neurophysiology by stabilizing neuronal excitability and blocking the entry of calcium into nerve cells. This promotes a state of relaxation that helps improve sleep quality by making nerve cells less excitable. There are two main families of magnesium, inorganic and organic. And among the organic forms, there is chelated magnesium, which has the strongest taste but is the best absorbed by the body. By the way, liposomal magnesium is not a type of magnesium, but simply an encapsulation technology. Because in theory, any dietary supplement can be made liposomal. I'm telling you this because I've already heard people say that liposomal magnesium is a family of magnesium. So I won't dwell on liposomes in this video, but several issues related to this technology mean that it's not always ideal in formulation. Let's start with inorganic magnesium. This refers to mineral salts that do not contain carbon atoms in their chemical structure. Although they often have a high content of elemental magnesium, their absorption is low, which makes them less effective. In this group, there is magnesium oxide, magnesium carbonate, magnesium chloride, and magnesium sulfate. But why is the absorption of inorganic forms so low? The absorption of magnesium depends on its solubility and the availability of Mg2+. Insoluble salts like magnesium oxide release few Mg2+ ions, which reduces their absorption. And even highly soluble forms like chloride or sulfate can be problematic because excess unabsorbed ionic magnesium draws water by osmosis, causing a laxative effect and limiting absorption. Now, let's talk about organic magnesium forms. These are the best absorbed types of magnesium because they bind to an organic molecule containing carbon, often an amino acid or an organic acid. As a result, it dissolves better, is absorbed more easily, and most importantly, it avoids ending up in the toilet like some inorganic forms. In short, if your goal is to actually get real benefits rather than ending up like our colleague who's always on the throne, then make sure to choose organic forms. Now, let's move on to the very best. Chelated magnesium is a specific form of organic magnesium where the Mg ion is bound to an amino acid, usually glycine. This bond stabilizes the magnesium, improves its intestinal absorption, and reduces the laxative effect often associated with inorganic forms. Chelated magnesium bisglycinate is one of the most bioavailable and best tolerated forms, and that's thanks to its chelation with glycine. This allows it to use amino acid transporters, which helps it avoid competition with other minerals and be efficiently absorbed by the body. But as we saw earlier, Make sure to choose magnesium bisglycinate that clearly states it is chelated to ensure optimal absorption and maximum effectiveness. But why choose 3 forms of magnesium? It's not just to show off like, yeah, we have 3 forms of magnesium. No, it's to optimize the benefits of the different forms and to maximize their absorption. Magnesium can be absorbed through 2 main pathways in the intestine. The transcellular pathway, magnesium passes directly through the intestinal cells via the TRPM6 and TRPM7 ion channel. This pathway is effective, but limited, which means it can become saturated if too much magnesium uses this mechanism at the same time. If too much magnesium arrives at once, it causes a traffic jam and some of it gets left behind. And then there's the paracellular pathway. Magnesium passes between the intestinal cells simply by a concentration gradient. This absorption depends on the amount of magnesium present in the intestine. The exception is chelated magnesium bisglycinate. You're starting to see that I really like this one. This one is the VIP. It skips the line and uses the peptide and amino acid pathways, which are normally reserved for proteins. As a result, its absorption is up to 70% higher compared to, for example, magnesium oxide. Once in the intestine, it is dissociated into free magnesium and glycine, which allows it to be better tolerated and more effective. And so, by combining these 3 forms, we ensure optimized absorption by distributing assimilation across several mechanisms without overloading a single pathway. So a question that often comes up, why do some forms of magnesium have a laxative effect? This effect is often due to inorganic magnesium, such as oxide or sulfate, which have poor absorption. There are 2 main reasons that explain this phenomenon. The osmotic effect of unabsorbed magnesium, which remains in salt form and wanders through the intestine like a lost tourist. The osmotic effect of an excessive concentration of free ionic magnesium, which draws water in. And this is where it gets misleading because these forms are high in elemental magnesium. But be careful, high content does not mean high absorption. Once the intestine is saturated, anything that isn't absorbed takes the express exit often urgently. If your goal is to correct a deficiency, these forms of magnesium are clearly not the best options. If you have any other questions about magnesium, feel free to ask me in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, you know what to do. Thank you and see you next time.